So what do you think of trolls? Do you think you've made it if you have trolls?
I think it's a good indicator. Why? Do we have trolls?
Yeah, we do.
We have trolls now?
We do.
Oh my God.
We've had trolls for
That's
a
awesome.
little while, but like now they're coming hard.
Really? They're coming hard?
They're critiquing how we speak. They're critiquing our content. So I'm like, kind of like, is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? I'm not really sure. What do you think?
Hurt?
Some of it's true.
So it does hurt if it's true.
A little bit, but it makes me pause and I'm like, ooh, I may have to fix that. So I'm like, if you think you're being a troll, you're actually helping the show. So thank you.
Yeah. It's unconstructive criticism.
No,
but there's always
totally,
a nugget there's always a nugget of truth in there.
It's not unconstructive. It's constructive.
I know. Well, not if it comes hard,
It's coming hard. Some of it's okay. Let's say
it's got to be mostly dudes, right? Because
we're
on
guys.
A podcast with a woman. So, naturally it's like douchebags coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah, I think there was one lady though. There are
one lady. There was one lady that called you weird.
Yeah.
I think actually you have the trolls.
I think I do.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Hey listeners, ever wonder what it would be like to blow up your comfort zone at the tender age of 50? Well, we did just that. When our last kid went off to college, we hit the road in search of a new hometown. Now we bounce from city to city and bring you along for the ride. This is the Skip Town All-Stars podcast.
Welcome back, All-Stars, to an episode that we are very excited to bring you. We've been discussing this one for a while. It has everything to do with our current situation of remote work.
Yes,
and
it does.
Remote working at large, an update, a 2023 update post-pandemic.
Yeah, I felt it was so necessary to do this episode because I just find this topic comical when you're looking at social media. So, I'll see things and then I look at our lives. I'm like, not really like that. So I'm on some Facebook groups. It is, the only platform where you can legitimately be a group. Like Instagram, you can follow people, TikTok the same, but like Facebook is still like you can get on a group and hit that one group with all kinds of questions for that topic. As much as Facebook is considered archaic, it actually serves a really good purpose for business, for lifestyle, for hobbies. So,
Discord is the newest one, but I definitely agree with you that for our demographic and people in our age bracket, there are no early adopters. There are very few early adopters, I should say, from our demographic that are heading over to Discord. I think the kids are using it a lot more, or techies.
Yeah. So it's fine. Maybe we'll hop on over there. But right now, I am on this digital nomad Facebook group just to get an idea of how other people are living.
How they living?
Not like we are.
Really?
Okay. Every
Is
single
that good or bad?
Okay. Every single post is someone on a beach with a laptop on their lap, with a cocktail, or like in a swing in Thailand with like their iPad, and it looks like they're trying to work. And I just laugh hysterically because how's that working for you? I have yet to see you by the pool on a beach with a cocktail and your laptop.
I would say my digital nomad experience pales in comparison to the examples you're giving me.
Okay, I saw somebody literally on a hammock. They said they were on a beach in Thailand and they had their laptop on them, on the hammock as they're laying, which that's got to be super uncomfortable. And I'm thinking, how are they getting Wi-Fi out on the beach?
Yeah.
Like you struggle when we're at a really like a house. You struggle when we're at a hotel that already has decent Wi-Fi. Or if you've asked the host at the Airbnb, we're staying 1,000 questions, you're still panicking. How is this guy sitting in a hammock on a beach in Thailand actually doing work?
The only way that can happen is if they have their own hotspot or Starlink. But I would bet that a lot of this is social media posturing. People just, sort of posing that they're working remotely. Sure, the beach is right outside, perhaps, or at least 100 yards away. But odds are, I mean...
Okay, let's just use you as an example. We were in Naples. Yeah. My friend has like a multi-million-dollar home that she was gracious enough to let us stay.
Absolutely.
She has the pool the size of, I don't know, an Olympic pool. Where were you doing your work?
I was doing my work upstairs on a folding card table with a borrowed chair from another room.
All right. Why is that? Why weren't you by the pool with a cocktail? Just curious.
I don't know. I guess I could have been outside, maybe. I'm not sure.
Could you really get work done sitting by the
No.
pool with a cocktail?
No, I would have been constantly distracted all day.
Okay, that's my point. Like I see these posts and I see them often, and you see them on TikTok too. But then you'll get like one naysayer or two. Okay, they don't pop up on your feed often because it's not the image that people want portrayed for remote living. But you'll see like some poor girl who tried to do van life where their hair is all matted. She hasn't showered in days. All the places she goes to for her van life are booked. I mean, and she's legit. She can't get a signal from her car. Her hotspots aren't working. I'm like, okay, that's real remote working.
Yeah, we've had a few borderline experiences to that. We figured it out. But yeah, there were moments where I was feeling like that person logging into a Zoom in the morning for work.
So I thought like, okay, we're here and we're legitimately remote working. So let's talk about the truth from the fiction.
Okay, so let's say we're here at base camp. A typical day means I wake up at 7 a.m., 8 at the latest. If I want to go hit golf balls or do a workout or grab coffee and just screw off, that's usually for me the time where I have to do it because I'm on the East Coast currently. Whenever I'm in a different time zone than most of my production offices back in Los Angeles, I generally have to start work around 1 p.m. because it's 10 a.m. on the West Coast.
How was that for you? Because in LA, when you lived on the West Coast, and even when we were traveling on the West Coast, you actually didn't have to work too much. But there were moments where you were working remotely from the West Coast.
Yeah.
And you're really a morning person.
I
So
am.
when you start a work day at 1 o'clock, how does that affect your day?
Well, what it means is basically I'm finishing around 9 or 10 o'clock at night. So that screws me up a lot. I'm not going to lie. And it has been an adjustment as we've moved further east across the country in our travels while I've been working. My mornings, I find myself telling myself every morning, you have to be more disciplined and not in terms of getting my job done or logging in at 1 p.m. or doing my work. I have to be more disciplined in actually getting personal hours out of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And now I have to do it in the morning rather than trying to.
Okay, but you're a
do it
morning
at night.
person. So
Yeah, I'm
that's
totally
got to
a
be easy.
It hasn't been. I don't know why. I find myself squandering time here and there.
Are you on TikTok all morning?
It's been sometimes.
Okay. Maybe you need to go off TikTok.
Maybe I need a
Maybe take
TikTok.
maybe hiatus.
Yeah. But I would say, generally speaking, it's getting better.
What does that mean?
I think it was like, in LA, I knew I had a hard start at 10 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I woke up at 7, I could do the budget, go work out, do all those things that I needed to do and feel really good about not having anything lingering so that once I clocked out of my job at the end of the night,
Yeah.
I had the rest of the night to either, like maybe watch a show or catch up with the kids or do whatever I was going to do.
Because you were clocking out at that point at 7 p.m.
Right.
So
I
now-
had let's face it, like anybody who wakes up in the morning trying to work out, like there's a reason people recommend it. And that is because it's the thing that you will put off the most as the day progresses.
It's true.
And you will never do it.
Yeah.
You're at 3:30, you're like, oh, I'm really hungry though. And then you'll eat an early dinner and then you'll never work out.
Yeah.
So it's like, if I can get that workout in at the beginning of the morning, then I feel like I've got so much, like my day is definitely predicated on getting some sort of physical activity early.
Okay, but like I'm sitting here listening to you, and I'm sure anyone else listening to you is like, okay, but you have until 1 o'clock to get your shit done. So what's the problem?
The problem is I find myself getting distracted by other things. So if a shower repairman is coming, or if all of a sudden I have to fill out some form.
Oh, so domestic bullshit is
Domestic bullshit gets in the way.
Oh,
yeah,
all right.
for
Okay.
sure.
Because between 5 and 7 or 6 a.m. and 8 a.m., domestic bullshit was at a minimum. But when you're starting,
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
And so that speaks to philosophically, one of the things that I truly believe, and I think maybe some of you have heard about it before, it's called Parkinson's theory. Parkinson's theory states that the amount of time you have to complete a given task is the amount of time it's going to take. For example, if I have 5 hours to do my workout,
It's
some domestic bullshit, pay some bills, do whatever it is I need to do. It's going to take all of that 5 hours. So I'm not going to finish in 3.5 hours and then be watching Netflix for an hour and a half before my job starts.
Why do you think that is?
It's just the nature of human beings. I mean, I believe that theory is true. Case in point,
my life was
John
like
F. Kennedy said we will have a man on the moon by 1970. And in 1969, we put a man on the moon.
So if I say the words, I want to work out every morning at 9 a.m., will you think it'll happen?
Well, that's not really applying to the theory. Yeah, I guess if you say you're going to work out.
Well, he said we're going to land a man on the moon.
Better stated, if you said, I will have my workout done by 10 a.m. every morning, then at 9 a.m. you will start your workout.
So I just have to say that.
You actually have to put a deadline down as the theory
but I
goes.
do that every night, the night before, and I'm still sleeping at 8:30.
You mean waking up at 8:30?
I want to have a workout.
You're talking about front loading and scheduling your day versus giving yourself a deadline. Do you understand the disconnect there?
That could be the problem.
Yeah. You need to give yourself a deadline rather than saying, I'm going to wake up at 7 a.m. What you need to say is, I'm going to have X, Y, and Z done before 9:30 a.m. So I guarantee your little ass is going to wake up at 7 a.m.
I'm going to try that tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, when I do that, when I say I have to have all this stuff done by 10 a.m. when I start my job, I get up, no problem, at 6:30, 7 in the morning.
Ooh.
Because I know I want to have that stuff done.
I don't know if I've ever said that to myself. I mean, I always go to bed at night thinking I'm going to be a good person tomorrow. I'll be nice to James, and then I'll try to get a workout in. And then
you need to give yourself a deadline on being nice to me.
2 of those things happens, 1 may not.
You definitely need to give yourself a deadline on being nice to me. No question. So,
okay, I'll try that. I'm literally going to try that tonight. I'm going to say this to myself tomorrow. We'll see if I work out tomorrow.
Okay. So moving on to like when we're actually on the road and we're traveling and trying out a new city. Mm-hmm. Let's take Savannah as an example.
Okay.
I would wake up at 7 a.m. I would do my workout, which basically meant I was walking the city for 5 miles at least or something like that. And then around 10 a.m., I knew all the stores or the new places I wanted to check out would be open.
Okay.
So then I would do my exploring for my own sake and for the sake of the show. And then by 1 p.m., I knew I'd be like hustling on my little shoes back to our where we were staying so that I could log in and do my job.
Okay.
That was how I was maximizing that. So I actually, believe it or not, I mean, I find it a little easier to work remotely when we're actually, bouncing around from city to city. For whatever reason, my motivation factor spikes.
You know what that is. That's like ask a busy person to finish a task and they'll have it done. And so when we're in a city, we are normally really busy with the show and we're hustling. But when we're, like at a base camp like we are right now in Florida, it tends to be all willy-nilly. Yeah,
for sure. And the time zone for me, generally speaking, means, okay, if I'm starting at 1 o'clock, that means my dinner time on the East Coast is actually everyone else's lunch break. So it has been nice to go to other places where people, like, this doesn't happen in Los Angeles, by the way, everyone. Like, everybody's working from 10 a.m. to 7 or 8 p.m. at night. So the 5 o'clock dinner rush does not happen in Los Angeles very often. So, but I find everywhere else, they try and live a normal lifestyle and they try and try and sign out of their jobs around 5 or 6 p.m. latest. They're having dinner they have dinner on the table by 6:30.
That's
whether they're eating out or whether they, so
that's what we've noticed across the board.
Yeah. So in the case of where like we met Chip and Kim in Savannah and we were going to go meet them for dinner.
Oh, it was 5. They wanted to do it early, remember?
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't ask them like, can you eat at 8 p.m.? p.m. Like there's no way.
I
So,
know, yeah.
And we're trying to get a sense of what life is really like in a given city.
Yeah.
That means we're eating dinner earlier.
Well,
So
I actually have always eaten dinner earlier. You have never been home for dinner. So when I've
Yeah.
made dinner with the girls and we lived in Los Angeles, dinner was always between 5 and 5:30. That's just the way I was raised. So I just continued that tradition. But you sometimes wouldn't eat dinner at all when
Right.
you worked. You would come home.
oh yeah, we
and
would have
just-
second lunch at work, basically.
Yeah, you would
So,
come home and eat dinner at like 8:30. So
Yeah.
it's more of a, I think it's more of a shift for you
My
than it
industry.
really is me, because I'm fine with dinner at 5. Although I was like, wow, they want to have dinner early. But I'm totally ready to eat at 5. You, on the other hand, you're probably more an 8 o'clock person.
Definitely, without.
But okay,
question.
but then that works well for West Coast because that's 5 p.m.
It does. The downside is when we're done meeting and having dinner with our friends, I have to go back and work for another 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah, that's
generally
true.
speaking.
Right. So when your dinner comes on the East Coast,
Yeah.
everyone else is off work, but that's just like literally your second lunch
Yeah,
or your lunch. That
Yeah.
might even be considered your lunch. Yeah.
it's definitely considered my lunch because then I come back home
And work.
and work because everybody on the West Coast is back in the office from their lunch break. So
Yeah. I wonder how the time change is going to affect us when we travel abroad, because we talk about it and we're going to do it.
Yeah.
So the time change is disrupting your personal calendar, because that quiet time you had in the morning,
mhm.
you're not getting it. Even though you're still waking up at 7 a.m., you're finding that 7 to 9 is not giving you the quiet time. Because why again?
I'm just not being super productive. I think
Okay.
it's an adjustment.
Okay.
And I think it's because now, subconsciously, I say to myself, well, I don't have to do anything until 1 p.m.
Oh, that will mess with you.
Yeah.
Okay, for sure. No question.
So
about
now all of a sudden it's like I'm screwing around with the dog or whatever, or strumming the guitar is a good thing, I guess. But
No, you're just finding you're being distracted. You're doing other stuff. Right.
I'm not doing so.
You're on TikTok.
If I were to I'm not on TikTok that much. That's
Go ahead.
normally at night. That's what normally puts me to sleep.
You're on TikTok
So-
in the morning.
so
Let me
anyway.
check your history on your phone.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
Check my history.
Did you turn your phone? Oh, do you have screen time on your phone?
No.
He does not want to know how much time he spends on the phone, so he will not turn that screen time on.
I don't want Apple to know how much time I spend
Apple
on my
knows
phone.
everything. Anyway, go ahead.
All right. So let's talk about you and how your life has changed as a remote worker.
Oh, it's insane. It's so weird.
Let me set the table. Before, you would wake up angry around 7 or 8 a.m. and you would be at work by 10 a.m. at the latest, right?
Always.
Sometimes you had an early client who you had to get in. You would have to drive so you became the actual go to the office,
I did.
ham and egger kind of person.
Uh-huh.
And so you were the actual like in office person. So
Uh-huh.
you would be at the office from 10, your spa
Uh-huh.
from 10
Uh-huh.
until at least 6 or 7 p.m.
Right,
You
correct.
would get home.
Yeah.
And you'd have to drive 40 minutes to get there each way.
No, it was about 20 to 30. It was short. It was not
Okay.
as long. It wasn't
Not
as
bad.
long as a typical travel in LA.
But you would have a drive on either end of that, at least a half an hour normally,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Okay. So now you don't have any of that. And
It's
I
horrible.
first off, I don't know how she does it. She does 90% of the show's work on her phone. She's a screenager in the truest sense. Like she's literally
Yeah.
like a Gen Z person. She will have a laptop sitting right next to her on the coffee table that will be closed, and her thumbs will be going 100,000 miles an hour, responding to a post, posting a new video. She edits on her phone. She does all that, which is pretty crazy for a 50-year-old lady. But
Well, the reason I do that is because I don't want to carry my laptop to every single location we go to.
sure.
So there are times where I've had to bring my laptop, but it's not, the phone, like for everyone, is just the easiest and it's small and I can do so much on it. But there are certain applications like Facebook, believe it or not, works better on a laptop. Certain things that I want to do on that to create content. But yeah, I am doing everything on my phone. And here's the kicker of all. I hate the phone. I literally wish my phone would get lost so many times. I would never find it. We were in Mexico and I was walking across the bridge, and it took everything from me not to throw my phone over the bridge, like onto the cement. I literally, not in water, because I wanted to physically watch it crack as it fell and hit the ground.
That
But-
sounds very violent.
I know that's how much I hate my phone. I'm a big believer.
The kids are rolling their eyes right now.
I
You know
know.
this, right?
Yep. Because but if anybody knows me or ever lived with me, okay,
We did.
you did. So let's stick to the family. Because if you knew me, you didn't live with me. But if you lived with me, you knew I hated the phone. I would walk into a room and everyone would be on their phone. And I would say, are we going to have family night? Like
she would be doing whatever it is she was doing for hours. But the second she walked into the room, everybody would like toss their phones up in the air and tuck them under cushions.
This was actually before I had a phone that like I could do anything with, because I held out with my little Motorola Flip for a long time.
No.
And any of my friends listening know that. Like I had that I had that old school Motorola Flip.
3G.
Yeah, 3G Motorola flip phone for the longest time, where, if I'm texting somebody, it's AEL. And I held on to that because it was so small. I loved it. So if you know anything about that phone, you can't do anything on it other than receive a call, make a call, and like send a text that will take forever. So finally, when my girlfriend shamed me into like upgrading my phone and he got me an iPhone, I was like, I guess I need to be on the phone to like participate with this family. And that is straight up the God's honest truth. Nobody wants to admit that, because nobody ever wants to admit they're an addict. Like you've never met an addict that says, oh yeah, I'm an addict. So nobody wants to admit that they were addicted to their phone, and they still are. So I would just I would look at nothing. Like literally I'd go to Macy's.com, or like I try to find something to look at, because if I'm going to sit in the room with them, I guess I have to have my phone.
Oh my gosh.
And then it turned into, I actually needed to use my phone for my beauty business to take photos. So for me, that's how the phone really started, as a form of marketing for my business. And I always had it in my hand. And now it is literally the only way to create content in a fast manner. I can create content on my laptop.
In a remote environment, sure.
It's really the only way. I literally hate my phone, but unfortunately I'm on it. So yeah, here we are. I'm on my phone a lot with remote working.
Yeah, unfortunately, everything you do in your job now requires you to be on social media.
Yep, it really does.
That's just so terrible.
It's awful.
Oh my God.
Hate it.
I'm being sarcastic when
I know you
that.
are, but I'm being serious. Like I actually hate it. I just wish there's a part of me that wants to go back to the old Yellow Pages days of just putting an ad up and seeing who calls, so I can get on with my life. Because it's not just work also, it's like the moment that you get on anything, any app, or somebody texts you, like I could be in the middle of work. Someone will send me a text. Oh, that text could take me down a rabbit hole that now I'm on a detour for an hour, and I was in the middle of something. But back in the day when it was the rotary phone and the Yellow Pages, if you were working, you got your task done. You weren't interrupted as much.
Okay, Grandma. Let's get back to let me reel you in.
All right. There is a part of me, I think, that I am like, what's that name of guys that go off in the wilderness? Not survivalists, but they're under the radar. What are they called?
Like off-gridders.
Yeah,
or whatever.
I could totally be an off-gridder. I could totally be. I just need to get my hair done. If I found a colorist, I could totally be. I come into town every 6 weeks to get my hair colored, and then I go back. I don't need a phone. I don't need anything.
Really?
I think I could do it.
I don't think you could.
I know you. I know you say that.
How are you going to make plans with people?
Don't we all just don't they all hang out in the same forest?
No. That's the whole point of being off grid. You want to be away from people. You couldn't do it for a weekend.
I like people. But
you do like people.
I think I'd find other friends.
Okay.
That are doing my stuff.
Snow White. You're out there talking to the birds and the bears and shit.
No, I'm going to find other off-gridders. I'm telling you, I can make this work.
Preppers. Right?
Yeah, that's what they're called. Preppers,
yeah.
right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, so how does my day begin? Is that what you want to know?
Yeah, I want to know what your life is like now that you don't have to go into a spa and drive each way. And let's talk about how
it's terrible
you've actually become a remote worker.
I have.
Yeah.
But it's terrible because I'm such a scheduled person. So the terrible part about it for me is I blow up my own schedule every single day. And this is why I've never been a proponent of the workouts from home because I will never stick to it because I will say the night before, oh, I'm going to do that like video. And then I never do it. Or I'm going to follow this girl and do her 30-day, it was really popular to do the plank for like 30 days. Yeah. I did it one day. And so unless I have a place to go to, I have a very hard time sticking to my schedule. I've told everyone this. No one believes me. They're always like, oh no, you just got to go and do this. No, I'm not good at it. But so what happens is that I kind of just like do whatever I want in the morning.
Yeah.
And then
you do.
My day sometimes doesn't start until his has to start at 1:00. So my day will just like randomly start at like noon or 1. But then the problem is at 5:00, everything is closed. If I need to like go to the post office, which I know who goes to the post office, but I want a rotary phone. So I still go to the post office. But it's been hard. It's been hard maintaining. Okay. Let me just be honest. It's been hard creating a schedule. I can't even say maintaining. I can't even create one to maintain it. Okay. So it's really hard to create a schedule. And what I also find difficult is that, with social media and anybody that's on social media or as a content creator, they know that like one video could legitimately take 2 hours of your day. I love creating that. I love like doing this podcast, but when 2 hours flies into thin air and you're like, whoa, it's 7 p.m. now. It's like, that's crazy. I say to James all the time, like for me, doing this job is like a time suck vortex, right? Is that the right word?
It's a word. Yeah. It's a word you chose.
Did I just make that up?
It's like a lot of words, but it sounded a little like word soup. But
so what should I say? Just
a time suck vortex, sure.
So it's like I wake up.
We understand. We follow. We digging it.
I wake up at 10, and then it's 7, and I'm like still in my pajamas, which is horrendous.
Yeah, I think a lot of remote workers would say that sounds like a dream to me. But the one thing I will say where you and I have reached common ground that we did not always have in our relationship was you never understood just how long it takes to edit a 2-minute video.
Oh yeah, no idea.
You were just like, why don't you just do your stuff and leave?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now I know. Yeah.
So why don't you just do your stuff and leave?
Where am I going to go? Where am I going to go?
I know. You're a night person anyway. So for you, like being up until 2 a.m. doing something.
All right, you're right. But here's the problem I find is that when you don't have an office to leave, the work never stops.
Agree. And I was just about to say, well, what if you just said from this block to this block every day, I'm doing nothing but work and I'm ignoring my texts from my daughters and friends and like whatever like BS is going on.
I have to be honest with you.
What if you were to block it out in chunks?
It's not going to work. The only way it would work for me personally, is if I rented an office space. Because what? That makes total sense.
Office to go to. We have an office.
Honestly, if it was just a desk and a chair, that's all I would need. Because at least when I'm there, I won't get sidetracked with doing a load of laundry. I won't get sidetracked with like, checking to see what my brother's doing, walking next door. What do you make for breakfast? Like, no, like if I had an office to go to, I would be very structured.
You think so?
Oh, I know. So it's like working out. When I go to the gym, I do the work.
Well, I will say the times where I've had to rent a workspace, I knew the clock was ticking and they were going to, generally speaking, I found a great one in St. Augustine. If anybody ever wants to know about it, by the way, they don't kick you out at 5 p.m., but generally those places kick you out at 5 p.m. So again, going back to my deadline theory, I knew I had to finish everything I needed to finish for the show, for my job, for whatever by 5 p.m. that given day.
Okay. So that is very similar to what I'm saying, that if I have an office space and I don't want to be in the uncomfortable chair and the desk all day and just, waste my time.
So you need to suffer to get your work done.
Yeah, pretty much. I go to a gym to suffer because I can't get it done at my house. But I don't think that my plight is any different than most people because so many friends of ours work remotely and they all say the same thing, is that the more time they spend working at home, the more time they're working. Whereas when they were in the office, they'd leave by 6. But if they're working at home, they're up till 9 or 10. So I think honestly, businesses, as much as they'll complain about like people working remotely, because we read articles about it, like
Sure.
they're getting the better end of the deal. Like my girlfriend Susie, she's up very late working. She wasn't in the office
She's
that
like
late.
me, yeah.
Yeah,
she's working all like weird hours or all around the clock.
I mean, if she were in the office, she'd have to leave at 6 or 7.
Yeah.
But now she's working through those hours. So it's like, I don't know why companies are complaining, because they're benefiting the most, I think.
Okay. So then your assessment would be that working from home, working remotely isn't necessarily working for you.
It's not. It's not. I actually am contemplating getting an office space, even if it means,
Wow.
I need to be, I want to be out of my pajamas.
Okay. Do you feel like you need to be showered and
Absolutely
and prepped and, well, in your case, makeup and all that other stuff to be productive at work, as if you were going to a normal job?
I would say it's 50-50, because it's just a mindset. Because I've had very, very productive days in my pajamas, hair in a bun, no shower. But then there are other days where I feel if I had showered, dressed, put some makeup on, I would have been more productive. So it's really, I would say, a toss-up.
Okay.
Where if I'm looking lazy, I feel lazy on some days.
So you're working lazy if you're looking lazy.
Kind of. It's the whole thing of like, wear a suit to work, feel professional, you'll act professional. Like how you dress is how
The
people
clothes make the woman.
Sort of, or like how the clothes, how you perceive yourself. Like everyone knows when you put a nice suit on, you're like, oh, you feel and act like you're $1 million.
I look dope.
And you act that way, right?
Yeah,
like you have
absolutely.
a different swagger.
Oh yeah, my shoulders are straight up.
Right. It's the same thing. So when I have a nice outfit on at home and I'm not just like a blob on the couch with my phone in my hand, creating content, it's different. It's like, I may not be any more productive. I feel more productive though.
Sure.
And I don't know. I'm honestly telling you, it's 50-50, because I think there are days where when I look lazy, I'm feeling lazy, and maybe I am being a little lazy with my work. I can't explain it, but there are other days where when I'm looking lazy but I'm still productive. But I want it to be 90% of the time where I'm productive, not just 50. I want it to be like 90% where I feel like I'm productive, where I have some sort of, I need a schedule.
You do need a schedule.
Where I have structure. Let me take that back.
Yeah.
I want to feel like I have more structure. I just work better that way. I've always been that person.
Sure.
That's why I'm an organizing freak in our like closets in our bedroom, because it's like, I like structure. So to not have structure, I feel like I'm everywhere, pulled everywhere.
Okay. So obviously that's changed since you stopped going to the spa every day.
That structure stopped.
So yeah. So, but back then, this is going to be my argument. Back then you had to say no to things that now all of a sudden, because you can do X, Y, Z later on Instagram later. Now all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, sure. I can go do whatever in the middle of the afternoon. You went to see a movie the other day at like 2 p.m., which is really nice to be able to do that. And, frankly,
I know
we'll get into why I feel working remotely works for me overall. But
I justify that though, because I was up till 1 a.m. the night before. So
but
I have my
point.
justifications.
You don't have to justify it if you just actually stick to your blocks elsewhere,
I don't stick to my blocks elsewhere. That's the problem.
Yeah.
So like that day, I didn't do as much work as I wanted, because like I went to the movies and then we went to lunch, so it took like 5 hours out of my day.
Right.
I don't know. I need structure.
You do.
I'm getting the job done, but it's not pretty.
You need discipline, and I'm the person to give it to you.
No, I'll rent an office space.
Okay. We're not spending money on an office space.
We might.
Why don't there are community centers you can go to. There are like people's houses you can go to.
I need to get
just
away.
go to somebody else's house. Like if we happen to be in Florida.
No, where am I going to go?
If we happen to be in Florida, go to your brother's house.
No,
he's got an office. It's sitting empty all day. He's retired.
I know, but they're really
work in the
active
office.
and they do fun stuff. And then I'm going to hear them leaving.
Oh, you're going to
I'm
get
gonna
swept
be like,
up in that. Where are you going?
FOMO,
What are you doing?
FOMO. I'm going to get. I need to be.
Okay. All right, maybe that's a bad example, but find a community center or a cyber cafe or something like that where it's reasonable for $20. You can stay there for X amount of hours.
Okay.
Don't rent a workspace. That's what I'm telling you. They're usually over $100 to $150
I'm going to look
per
into
day.
this. Don't worry about it. You do you.
Okay. I am doing me and you are me.
All right. So how's
anyway.
it working for you?
I love it. I'm never going back to the office. I don't care. That's why I sold my house. Fuck that. I'm never, ever, ever doing it. Ever. I don't care if I have to
Worked 15-hour days?
I will do an online sales job. I will be a telemarketer from home. I don't care. I'm going to have to figure it out. Like when.
Wait.
Like,
you're going to be selling solar
I will.
roofs?
I'll be like selling HVAC units and, car warranties and all that bullshit. I will be the person calling you on the phone. I don't care. I'm never, I will definitely do a career pivot if that's what it takes. I'm fortunate enough to do that.
To stay at home.
Yes.
I know you're so good. You're so disciplined. I would look at you. You'd be out on the patio like 7 a.m. doing your self-motivated workout. And I'd be like, I'm going to get a muffin.
I know.
I've gotten a little away.
I've gotten a little away from that since we've been on the road. It's been a lot of like eat, party.
You are very disciplined. I'm really like
slowly
impressed.
sinking back into that. Like last week, I got 4 early workouts in. That was the most I've had since July of last year when we pulled up stakes.
I'm impressed with anyone that can do that. Like it's super impressive. So kudos to you.
Doing my best, whatever. After the diet episode, it was like, anyway, that's a whole different topic. So, but I do find, even though it's an adjustment for me to set up my work blocks throughout the day, especially you're a distraction.
I'm sorry. I know I am.
You are a distraction because when we were working back in LA, you would leave in the morning and you would be gone. And I would have, the day to focus on whatever my tasks in hand were. So yeah, you are a little bit, you're kind of, it's good. It's in a good way, but you'll be like, oh, let's go to, let's go have lunch. Like, yeah. I'm hungry for Cuban food. Are you hungry for, yeah, sure. Like who isn't hungry for Cuban food? So, so that's been like being together with you.
It's hard.
I do find myself, especially now that we're like all the way in the Eastern time zone, I find my day drifting more toward you. And that's the last thing I ever wanted. Because for me, it's the least amount of productivity. I fall into your habits.
You're doing a Denise day.
Yeah, I was uploading an episode at like 12:30 the other night or something like that.
I was in bed sleeping actually.
Yeah, that was the first night you actually went to bed at a reasonable hour. I was so pissed off. But anyway.
12:30, a reasonable hour for me. Isn't that insane? It's just insane. I don't know. Yeah.
So anyway.
So you love remote working. You're never going back.
I definitely love remote working. I don't want to go back. I would do it if I had to feed us.
Okay, so I have a question because I'm sure everyone wants to know. How do you remote work? Because you work on television shows from Hollywood. So when we go, like, okay, for instance, we went to do an episode about, we went to do an episode with my cousin who's a travel agent, and we were in Jacksonville. You asked her some crazy questions over the phone about her internet speed. And the next thing I knew, you're in an office space because she didn't have fast enough internet speed. No. So can you what is your process? Because you're legitimately working. You're taking your backpack, you're grabbing the podcast stuff, you're grabbing your laptop because you're working 2 jobs. When you're remote working, you're working your regular job and then you're doing the podcast. So can you just explain in a short amount of words what that entails and what is the very, very first thing you think of when I say, we're going to Asheville, South Carolina?
That's easy. The first thing I think is we need a place with a fast internet speed.
What does that mean? What's that number?
I would say over 100 megabits per second.
Is that standard for most Airbnbs?
It's not. It's usually the 3rd tier of your cable or internet provider's package. So it's more expensive. It's generally in the $80 to $110 range. So if we're going to an Airbnb where they're only spending $50 per month on the first tier of internet service, odds are we can't stay there. And we would be able to stay there if I were just a salesperson or if I were doing, some sort of coding or data entry or whatever it is, some business management related task, no big deal. We could totally stay there. I'm pushing 4K video back and forth between my computer, my laptop, and their system, which is located in Burbank or Culver City or Santa Monica, California, or New York or Miami or wherever it is. I worked last year remotely with a company from New Zealand. So I need a fast internet service that when I click a button and I'm making an edit, it transacts quickly. And so that requires a lot more bandwidth. Obviously, it requires a higher speed. So that is sort of
that's a first step to finding out.
That's my crutch.
Yeah.
I cannot do my job without good internet. I just simply can't. So with high speed internet.
And then I've noticed because, when we had the office in LA, you had huge monitors everywhere for your work. Yeah. So you obviously can't have that on the road. It's too difficult.
It is.
You did bring one when we went to Savannah because we were there for quite a bit of time. But what do you normally, how do you do it? People have asked you these questions and sent you DMs. So how did you manage to be a television editor from Hollywood working on shows that people are watching with your laptop and a couple of other things?
Okay. So generally speaking, when you open up editing software, you need one monitor for all the clips you're selecting from, all the footage that you're wanting to view. And then you need a second monitor to put what's called your timeline, which is basically where you lay out the clips and you assemble them in order. And just so everybody knows, I don't just cut the footage in my genre of television. I have to cut music. I have to cut sound effects. I have to cut graphics. I sew up the whole thing along with my teammates. I'm saying I, me. We do this. And our job.
Really quick question.
Yeah.
How many people on one particular show, how many editors do you work with on a show? Like a show, let's just, Masked Singer. You worked on that show. How many editors?
The Masked Singer?
Yeah.
I would say there are at least 10 of us,
wow.
12 of us.
Okay. I don't think people realize how many editors
how
are
many
on.
hands go into that. But most shows you're usually working with a partner and there'll be like 4 or 5 teams of 2 or maybe 3 on a really
so
big
you have
endeavor.
your laptop and then you have a second screen that you travel with.
I do. The difference now is, so I had 2 monitors back when we were working at home, and once in a while I'd get tricky and feed it to the TV so I could see it full screen. I can't do that, obviously. Now I can't lug all that stuff with me. So it all fits into a backpack. And basically what I do is one monitor is my laptop. And then I bought like $140 Sidekick monitor. The big thing that's changed for me in using that setup is I have to wear these now. I'm pointing my glasses if you're watching YouTube, or if you're not watching, if you're just listening to the show. I have to wear glasses now because obviously you're not going to get the same size screen. The fonts are smaller, all that other stuff. So I find myself wearing eyeglasses a lot more
because the screens are smaller.
Because the screens are smaller.
Okay.
So that's the one difference. It has taken a toll on my eyesight a little bit in the last year or so.
Okay. So going back to the setup by the pool, or like the, Tahiti hammock or whatever, Thailand hammock with a cocktail, like you literally can't do that anyway.
I can't do that.
Any editor can't do that. Like that's like a farce.
Unless it's their own house. Yeah.
Got
like,
it.
I mean, if you want to set up a screen room where you can work and, walk outside, jump in your pool, dry off, come back, sit down, that's great. There are coffee shops I walk into that I can't work from, because
the tables aren't big enough.
Even if they have high speed internet, as they boast on the window, if I walk in, if the tables are too small, I can't fit both of my monitors.
All right. So you're in a field where people are working remotely, and I know that you know other people that have gone back to the office and people who've stayed at home.
Yeah.
What's the trend? Do people like it? Are you noticing people liking staying at home? Are they dreading going back to the office, or do some actually want to go back?
So I'm on a lot of, television production forums, Facebook groups, Slack, you name it. And I would say, generally speaking, there are about 2 out of 10 people that would prefer to go back to the office.
Okay. That makes sense, because I've been reading articles about, companies like Disney. Disney's a big company that made almost their entire workforce come back to the office. And you and I have discussed this, why? Well, we know why, because they have a huge footprint in a city called Burbank, where
that's not going away.
No, they own so much real estate, their offices. So the offices are going to sit empty. So I get it. They want to see those offices full, even though people are probably although their workers are probably doing more at home. It is interesting how some companies are forcing people to come back work. So just, talking about it and reading about it, like, you see stats and articles. So the one thing was that I came across was this article that said, like, okay, before obviously the pandemic, only 4% of people worked from home. And they were probably like those moms who were like doing like, some sort of multi-level marketing or something like that. Not a lot.
Or salespeople who could work from their home
exactly.
office.
There was 4%. That's like nothing.
Yeah, it's
then
not a lot.
Obviously in 2020, it rose to 61%. Like, that because the
for
pandemic.
That year, yeah.
And then it like went down substantially. Like it went down like in 2021, something like 23. And now in 2022.
2021, I believe, was like 34%.
Oh,
actually.
That's what it was. You're right. And then like, I think we read the same article. And then like 2022 was like 32%. So it jumped significantly. So to be at 61%, and then in 2021, half of that 61 has to go back to the office.
Right.
And then now it kind of has stayed the same because
I think it's going to stay around. I mean, I think it'll actually grow slightly in the coming years.
Why?
But just because it is a preference. And I do think there are a lot of companies with, a lot of real estate. Like, look, it would be a huge problem for Disney image wise if you read an article saying they're selling, 12,000 acres of the Disney property, right? Because nobody's even in there anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So it's just an image thing?
For Disney, it would. For Jimmy Gordon Productions or whatever, it's no big deal if I go from 6 offices to 4 or 3 or whatever. But for Disney, I just, that money, that land, that office space, everything is like bought and probably paid for. And they want to use it. And let's face it, if you want to say you're working at Disney, you got to go to Disney. It's just like that. I think they're kind of an anomaly.
Yeah. Because when I read that article, I remember I sent it to you and you obviously remember the stats as well. I was kind of surprised at like how many people went back to the office, and immediately I just thought like, oh, they were forced, because unless you're a young person,
right?
Like
we'll
because 2 out of 10 people, like you said, want to go back. So unless you're a young person, you kind of enjoy being at home, and unless you're me.
I think, honestly, I feel like a lot of younger and also maybe, in my industry, people who are more my age, but who happen to be single.
Oh, for sure.
Would prefer, because, it's
that's
like,
just how you meet people.
Absolutely.
I mean,
and you need interaction, and I get all that. So, hybrid is now a thing with some offices where they'll let you Temptation Island. I worked on Temptation Island, just wrapped a season recently. You have the choice. You can actually go into the office if you want. Yeah. I shouldn't say nobody, but not many editors do that. The producers do, because that's where they're spitballing ideas. They have their whiteboards and all that other stuff. And there are facets of each job where it's like a little more conducive to being together,
I'm a big proponent of it. You're making fun of me saying, you're making fun of me saying,
we heard you say it,
that I can't be what's that thing again? What are they called when they go out in the forest?
A prepper.
Yeah, that I can't be a prepper because I like people too much. I would be one of the people that would go back to the office. I mean, if I were young, or even at my age, obviously I'm saying I want an office space, because I do feel like, how are you ever going to like have a social life if you're at home? And like, especially if you're single. So you mentioned that as a single adult, like, okay, you work next to, I don't know, David, and David's got a brother, and, and David's been working with you, and he's like, oh, my brother would probably like you. Like, he's not going to get that on a Zoom. Like, you're never going to get
David's brother likes me. Is that what you just said?
Yeah. If I'm working next to David
and
I'm a single,
David's brother likes you.
I'm saying as a single.
I thought you were saying David's brother likes me.
No, David's brother will not like you. You're not very friendly. Okay. Anyway, so if I'm a single woman and I'm working next to a guy named David, and we work hand in hand a lot, and he has a single brother, it's like, this is how you get to know people. This is how you meet people. It's like, you don't do it on a Zoom. David isn't going to be on the Zoom and say, oh, my brother Joe would probably really like Denise. Like, it's not going to happen.
You're right.
So single people and young people should go back to the office, I think. But there are so many single people, I think, that got so used to working from home, they just don't want to do it.
Well, I just feel like, one of the great things that's come out of all this is that you can be an adult in most workplaces now and say, I want to go back, or I don't want to go back. And it has given you, and if places are requiring you to come back, there's something like a percentage of like 66 people 66% of people at a given job would say, if they required me to go back, I would instantly start looking for another job. 40% of those people would immediately resign.
Oh,
so
wow. Okay.
That's a pretty good swatch of your workforce.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah. But I do think, to your point, if you want to go back, you can go back. If you don't want to go back, you can go back. So it's kind of like whatever the company decides to do that's in the best interest. I would say definitely there are pros and cons. There are, even in my position, there are days where it was like if we're out putting an episode, like we're going to network, this thing's going to be on the air in 24 hours. There is an argument to be made, like that particular day, I should be in the office because that's where all the producers are. I shouldn't say all, most of the producers are already there. And it's like, you're typing, you're like, I'm cutting in music or whatever. And they're like, I'm not really feeling that music cue from across the room.
Got it.
It's like, I don't have to wait, finish my stuff, give it to them, let them watch it. And then, 45 minutes goes by before I find out they don't like that music cue.
Got it.
It's immediate.
There are some things being in the office that are just
there
immediate.
are some advantages. Yeah. I don't care about them myself personally, but
you've made that clear.
Yeah, totally.
So what do you feel about, look, we've been on the road now for 9 months. Yeah. We've hit so many cities. We have so many more to hit.
Yeah.
Has it worked for you? Like, have you been able to explore and work? Because that's the whole laughable thing that I look at these digital nomads and I'm like, they're not jumping in the water. They're freaking working. So is it working?
It is working. And for two reasons. Number one, I happen to enjoy working from home because all those years I wasn't allowed to. So my situation and your situation are entirely flopped, right? You enjoyed going to the spa every day. You got to meet, hang out with your ladies, do all your whatever you guys do there.
All your lady shit.
All your cosmetic shit. And and that's invigorating for you.
I know you have a
after
question.
being at home all those years with the kids, right? And so I missed plenty of things, or was late to plenty of things, or just stressed out trying to get to life events for my children that all of a sudden I didn't have to deal with anymore. And for me, that's been tremendous. So mindset wise, I knew it was going to work for me right away, but also I would say the exploring side that you're talking about works. But unlike the people in the hammock, I can't do my job and explore at the same time. It's like,
so you'll
I can't
carve
do both.
out time.
I have to compartmentalize. That's how it works for me.
So you're not sitting on the hammock by the beach with a cocktail hitting enter, because that's not something that will work for your schedule or what you do as a profession. But when you're in a different city, you will carve out the time to do your work in the day and go see the city at night, or vice versa, however you feel comfortable doing it.
And you know what? Those shots are bullshit. Like, seriously, from a technical standpoint, your laptop's going to get up to 140 degrees and fry if you're sitting there in the sun working on a hammock. Don't be stupid.
I never even thought of that.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
that's
I'm a
so dork,
true.
so I think of these things. But I'm like, I would never put my gear outside for extended lengths of time.
Okay, so there are so many people now that are trying this remote working thing. And, we talked about the girl van life who had the matted hair. But I actually found a website because, when we were looking to go to Savannah and places were so expensive and we knew we wanted to stay there for a month, I was trying everything. I was on those digital nomad sites. And then someone told me about a website. Oh my gosh. It's called Trusted Sitter. And it's where you go in any city and you house sit, right? So it sounds like a dream. Like these people could live in Nashville. So it's where hotels or Airbnbs are running $300 to $500 a night in Nashville for a Hampton Inn. You could actually house sit someone's house. That's the whole thing.
We get paid?
And you get paid.
What the hell are we doing
some people,
all this time?
I know. For some people, you get paid. Others, it's like you're not paying a housing expense, so you're just allowed to stay at their house. You have to be vetted. They do a background check on you. It's like a whole thing. So I was like, this is
I'm logging into it the minute we hit stop on this podcast.
No, you will not. Because once you get into the website and you go to the places you want to go, it's not just house sitting. It's like mowing their yard. It's taking care of their dog. It was like, okay, hold on. So I remember I called somebody who does this, and I called her and I was like, I'm not doing this. I said, this guy has a riding lawnmower. As much as I want to be in Nashville, as long as I want to be, as much as I want to be in Nashville, I'm not mowing the yard. I'm just not. And she goes, how long does it take to mow a yard? And I go, I don't know. I'm looking on this website. I think he has like half an acre or something. And she goes, okay.
Like an hour.
She goes, yes, or she said, she goes, okay. So like you ride it for an hour and you rake it. And you know, she goes, how much time would that really take? I was like, I'm out. But then I got to be honest.
It makes sense.
I was so desperate for places. I was like, I may call him.
We almost did it in Savannah.
That one was in Nashville.
Okay.
But yeah, I was like, I may call him. So anyway.
I would mow a lawn for like a free stay in a decent place.
I know. It's so, I wouldn't. Isn't that funny? Like, I don't know.
You are
I'm like,
so bougie.
It's not bougie. It's that like, I don't want to do work when I'm on vacation. Like,
you're getting a house for free.
I was going to say, I don't want to do work while I'm on vacation, but nowhere we've been
vacation.
has been a vacation.
No.
So let me rephrase that. I don't want to do work while I'm like at a place
While
trying to
you're at work?
explore. No.
You don't want to do work while you're working on the podcast?
You know what? That's it. That's
travel
it exactly.
has become kind of our job.
Yeah.
At this point.
It's like, I'm there. I don't want to spend one day mowing his lawn or her lawn. But then they like have pets too. And I'm like, oh, what if the pet dies? Like, no, that's too much. Like, I'm like, I think it's too much responsibility. But if you think you can handle a lawnmower, I'll tell you. It's called trustedsitter.com.
I'll do lawnmower if you do the dishes.
I always do dishes. So what's the benefit?
I
Okay.
think we've come to an agreement.
So I just stick to doing dishes and you'll mow someone else's lawn.
Yeah, as long as I don't have to do dishes, I'm good.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll do that then.
We're staying for free. That's all the money back into the Skip Town budget. I love it. I love it. Anyway, okay. So let's talk about overall trends, shall we?
Oh my gosh.
Because, you know, it's easy to talk about 2019 and the old days and then the new normal and how 2020 was like an exaggerated 61% of people working remotely or whatever. But
now it's down to like 32.
It's down to 32. It's back, you know, it's kind of back. But, you know, to your earlier point, it used to be something like somewhere between, depend on the market. It used to be somewhere between 4% and 19%. Now it's at 32 steady across the board. That's a huge increase, right?
30% is huge. Yeah.
Yeah. It's one out of three workers.
Yeah. It's like a 15% increase from the high, but yeah, go ahead.
So anyway, let's talk about some of the cities where, okay, you're going to be surprised now. It's 2023, right?
Uh-huh.
Things have changed.
Okay.
And it's not the exodus that it used to be.
Oh, seriously?
Seriously. You're going to be surprised at where most of the remote workers live and what cities are actually gaining in population.
Oh yeah, I need to hear this because I have in my head like certain areas that like I'm like, oh, people are moving there.
Okay, so let's take a quick break and I'm going to give you all that info on the other side.
Okay, sounds good.
What's up, listeners? We appreciate every ounce of feedback and interaction you are giving us on YouTube, on social media, and via your reviews on Apple Podcast and your ratings on Spotify. Please keep all that stuff coming. We are highlighting one specific listener this week that we really appreciate, who's been with us since the get-go, and her name is
Green B.
Green B.
Green, thank you so much for listening from the beginning. Oh, I love your DMs on Instagram, your messages on Facebook. You've traveled the world, so when we go to a place you visited, you're always quick to respond and say, hey, you should try this restaurant. Now, when we've been to a place that you haven't seen, you have such great feedback on the episode. Thank you for listening, and thanks for being a supporter and sharing our show with your friends. We really appreciate it.
She's one of our OGs, yeah?
She is one of our OGs. Yes, absolutely.
All right. Thanks, Green. And thanks to everyone else once again. Now, back to the episode. Okay, so back to remote working as a trend, as an overall experience in the United States. What city in 2022 would you say saw the most influx of remote workers?
Oh, wow. People coming in?
Yeah.
I would have to say, I mean, there's so many that we've talked to people. They swear their city was that city. Like everyone swears it was that city. Well, I would say something like, I'm gonna name what I think it would be, Savannah, because everyone there claimed 2020 ruined the landscape for population Savannah. New Braunfels came on the map in Texas because people are moving there outside of Austin, because why live in Austin? It's so expensive when you can live in New Braunfels. And then I would say, I don't know, I'm not familiar with a lot of cities outside of New York, but it has to be like some cities in upstate New York that saw an influx. Those are my guesses without knowing.
So when she says New Braunfels, she means New Braunfels, Texas.
It's the same.
It's not the same.
It's the same.
The locals right now are pounding the desk. I can't believe these two. Anyway, I did a little deep dive.
Oh, you brought facts.
I brought facts.
Okay, let's hear them.
So smaller metros, less than 100,000 population, the ones that grew the most during the pandemic. Okay. Bend, Oregon.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Rose to 41.8% of their workforce working remotely.
When we visited Bend, we talked about how it was the new hotspot for the West Coast. Like people from California moving to Bend. And remember we went there and we were like, we couldn't get it. We didn't understand it. And then we stopped and asked somebody and they said, oh, well, you have everything. You have the mountains, you have the water, and the airport's only 20 minutes away. And I was like, okay, get it.
Yeah, totally. Asheville, North Carolina, which is on our hit list.
Stop. I believe it. But I can't believe it's still growing because that was popular
15
years ago.
These are like 2021 figures I'm giving you right now. This is not current. There's a different trend going on right now.
Oh, okay.
Much different.
Okay.
So this is just, we're talking about the places where people flocked to.
During
when they were first cut loose and they could work remotely. Okay.
Asheville,
so within a year or two.
Asheville's still on the list though of popularity. I'm so surprised. I'm really surprised. I thought that would die eventually, but no, it's still climbing.
I mean, again, we're talking about what happened in the past. So, 2021, Asheville, North Carolina, Wilmington, Delaware.
Okay.
Johnson City, Tennessee, which is sort of northeast of Knoxville, I believe. Or regionally not far. Definitely not as far from Knoxville as Nashville.
Oh, we're going to have to check this place out.
Johnson City. Eugene, Oregon is the fifth one. So two places in Oregon.
It actually makes sense. It's the California flight. That's what that was.
A lot of West Coast people just heading northward. To get out of San Francisco, all that area. So, and then the larger metros, we're talking 100,000 people or above. Cape Coral, Florida.
Okay,
who do you know that moved to Cape Coral, Florida, besides exactly no one?
Okay, yeah, I don't know anybody that moved there. That's okay, but they saw an increase.
Charleston, South Carolina.
That I believe.
Also on our hit list. Tampa Bay area, Florida.
Oh, that's Tom Brady. He brought all those people, not the pandemic. Not the pandemic. No.
You could be right,
that
actually.
That was Tom Brady. Stop
Holy
it.
Shit. All those people retiring from Boston just decided to follow Tom Brady to Tampa Bay.
Yeah, that's all that shit was.
Well, I hope they still have their families. And then Jacksonville, Florida.
You just gave a Tom Brady dig right there.
I did. Yeah, that was an easy one. Jacksonville, Florida, and Orlando, Florida. Lots of Florida.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know why, don't you?
I think the perception that it's cheaper here.
And we are here to tell you.
It's not.
Nope.
I have no other statement to make.
Yeah, no, it's not cheaper at all. And traffic is bad.
Yeah.
So we're here to tell you, don't stay out of Florida.
It takes 40 minutes to go 15 miles.
I think that's accurate.
Yeah, it is.
I think that's accurate. That's crazy. But yeah, so stay out of Florida. It's not the place to come to anymore.
Yeah.
It's just not, honestly.
If you're complaining that you're living in Los Angeles and it takes you 50 minutes to go 13 miles, do not come to Florida.
Yeah. It's still better than LA traffic for sure and LA prices.
You're moving.
But it's not the Florida your grandparents moved to.
No, not at all.
We've been to Jacksonville. I see the appeal. And I've been to Orlando as of late, and I see the appeal too. Like Orlando used to be nothing but like corporate haven. Now they've like added some indie like little record stores and like little coffee shops. So I get it. And Jacksonville is just like a great beach town. But seriously, neither one are cheap. Did you know like the rent in Orlando for like a 1-bedroom apartment is like up to $2,000. Wow. It's like something crazy. Because I remember a friend of mine saying that their kid was looking for an apartment in Orlando just recently. And I think like a 1-bedroom was $2,000 and a 2-bedroom was like $2,500 or something. I'm like,
holy cow.
In Orlando. But you know, the people
I would
still
never pay that to live in Orlando.
I mean, I know some people like our Jody and Mike, like their daughter, Brittany, she made a good income when she was living in Orlando. But
oh, wow.
they're still not paying though, like the high
Wages
salary.
across Florida are not known to be fantastic.
Exactly.
Let's
So,
face it.
and the rents are high. Buying a house isn't as cheap. It's just not, like I said, it's not the Florida your grandma and grandpa their grandma and grandpa moved to.
Yeah. Okay. So funny you say that because there's a new trend in remote workers and where they are traveling to. Guess what the number one city is?
Okay, hold on. It's got to be a city in Georgia or North or South Carolina, but I don't know all the cities, so I can't, but that's my area. I'm giving you those three.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's Austin, Texas. People are moving
insane.
back to Austin, Texas. The number two city the number two city remote workers are moving to right now?
Oh, well, if you said Austin, I'm going to say San Diego now.
San Francisco.
That doesn't make any sense, honestly. Like none of this makes sense because San Francisco.
Seattle, Washington.
That's insane.
Washington, D.C.
Why?
I'll tell you, I don't know exactly why. And the actual stats that the website, which is like Owl Labs, they're a work from anywhere tech company. And also I got these facts from Ladders, which is reportedly like the number one website for $100,000 and up salary jobs. So LinkedIn would be Vans and Ladders would be Air Jordans.
Got it. Okay.
And so anyway, that's where all this stuff comes from. They didn't really offer that much of an explanation as to why this is happening, but I have a theory. I have a couple theories.
Jimmy Gordon has his own
Jimmy
theory.
Gordon.
Okay, so let's hear it.
Here's Jimmy Gordon's theory. If you didn't move in 2020 or 2021 right away, I think you are probably not realizing the same smaller market savings that you think you were going to get on a house if you were to move to a Savannah or a New Braunfels. Like everywhere we've talked about, the house prices have continued to rise, right? Like it's difficult to get into downtown Savannah now unless you're making a killer income. You're not going to get anything for less than $1 million.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
Wasn't the case in 2019.
No, it was not.
Was probably still not the case in 2020, although rising
You're right.
in 2021. Right? Now it's at a point where you're like, well, if I have to pay that much to live in Savannah, why would I even move? For starters.
That doesn't make sense though, because you can get a 7,800 square foot house in Savannah, whereas in San Francisco, you're going to get something for 1,200 square feet.
Agree. But you're also going to get all I don't know. San Francisco is really hard to say there are amenities in that city, in the current state that it's in. But
there's something about that city that you love that you'll stay.
It's close to, if you're working for Adobe or Apple or whatever, it's not far from your office. It is it is still a tech hub.
So there's something about that city. So it's really the city that's keeping people like Austin. Let's talk about that.
Austin.
Okay. So Austin's very expensive. Austin, a home that is roughly in the cool areas of Austin, and actually most areas of Austin are cool now. Like just people have come in and really just scooped up housing and made it beautiful in most areas around Austin. So a 1,200 square foot home is going to run you about 1.5 million in Austin in an area that people want to live in.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're saying is that if you live in Austin, because you love Austin, you love the river, you love everything about the food, the people, you're going to pay 1.5 for that 1,200 to 1,500 square foot home rather than paying 1.5 for a 7,000 square foot home somewhere else.
The reason that I think people would be willing to do that is because, let's face it, I know what you're saying.
It's they love Austin.
They love Austin and they want to live in a city that's vibrant and all that. And to me, it's a little too busy, but whatever. Like people love Austin. There's a reason so many people live there. My theory is though, that if your mortgage is going to be roughly the same, why move in the first place?
Bigger house,
but
that's not important to everybody.
That's
not
important.
What the article is basically showing, that
if you're just a couple, or maybe you have one kid or whatever, it may not be worth it for you to uproot everybody's lives, because my theory is
that's a millennial mentality. I tell you that right now.
Maybe. I don't know, we're getting into like generational shit.
No, that is.
But listen to my theory of why that is. Because moving to Savannah is not the steal it was 2 years ago.
It is though still. You're getting
It's
a bigger house. You're getting a 7,000 square foot house for the same price.
People wanted a house for $400,000. They wanted a house for $600,000. They don't want to spend over $1 million to go to a smaller town.
You're right. That it's so they are picking. These are millennials.
It doesn't matter if they have 4,000 square
Gen
more square
Xers
feet.
don't do shit like that. Gen Xers would buy that bigger house, suffer in an area that their friends aren't in.
Okay.
They would.
So let's use ourselves as an example. We're not going to do that. We're not buying a $1 million house in Savannah. We just left one in LA. Even though it's bigger, we don't want the same mortgage that we had before.
But my point is, Gen Xers at a younger age, we're retirement age, like approaching. So we're a different mindset. But when you get somebody in their 30s, when we were in our 30s, immediately we would have thought, oh, I'm getting the bigger house. This is a millennial mindset. No, this is millennials.
There are a lot of people that don't want to live in the sticks unless it's a really great deal. Unless you're getting a lot of land
unless
and a lot of house.
You're a hipster with the curled up mustache and you're going to have a little like cow and sheep and, horse in your backyard and do your hipster thing and have a big piece of property. You're staying in Austin because you want to be with other millennials. That's what this is. I'm telling you right now.
It's definitely a more progressive city.
There's no
so let's face it.
They don't want the big space.
They don't want the big space, essentially. And they don't want to pay almost the same price. Like, let's face it. It's just not the deal it was 2 years ago.
It is though. You're getting a bigger house, but they're picking.
You're paying $300,000 at least more for that same house than you would have just 24 months ago. You understand that?
I do understand that. But what I'm saying is that house in comparison to the 1,500 square foot house is 7 times in size.
Spaces and everything.
That's what I'm saying.
I know.
Millennials don't care about that.
But I'm also saying
because at $1,500,
it's a big meh. It's like
that $1,500 house that's 1.5 was not 1.5. It's the same difference. If we're going to talk about that, it's the same difference. That $1.5 million house in Austin, it's 1,500 square feet, was not $1.5 million 3 years ago. But this person, this millennial.
But you're already in it.
You're right. They're picking the city and they're picking the location over space. They're picking aesthetics over space, where Gen Xers in their 30s would never have done that. This is a total millennial thing. They will pay more for less, which to me is insane.
Well, because they want to live around like-minded people.
That is true. Because even our kids have said, like, pick a place where people are like really open-minded. They've actually said that.
Yeah.
I'm still wrapping my head around the fact that like a millennial would rather stay in Austin than move to New Braunfels and get a bigger house.
We're not necessarily talking millennials. Like, there's no generational info in this data. It's not across the board.
It's not somebody clear-headed.
So then you just naturally assume it's a millennial?
100%.
Oh my God.
Because if you were clear-headed, you would know the bigger house makes sense. But for them, the reason I say it's millennial.
You're just dealing with space as an indicator. It's not the only indicator as to why you would want to buy a house. Some people don't want a large ass farmhouse.
No, I don't even mean that. I'm just talking like a bigger house. Like you could buy a 2,000 square foot house, probably under $1 million outside of Austin, but you're going to pay 1.5 for that 1,500 square foot house because you love that location so much. And I'm telling you, this is a mindset of the millennials. I know. I know because I'm around them, and this is like, they don't care about the things that we cared about.
Well, I think a lot of millennials don't even care about owning a house. So I'm just not sure why we're fixated on millennials right now.
Because I can't imagine anyone over the age of 45 or 50 who would pick the smaller house that is more expensive in Austin when you can live outside for 30 minutes and have a bigger house.
If it's just you, it's not a far cry
those
from
numbers,
1,200 square feet to 16 or 18 or even 2,000 square feet. Sure, it's a bigger house.
I know those numbers make me crazy. Like I literally cannot believe those numbers.
Well, I think you should be more shocked by the fact that people are actually moving back to big cities.
They are. That's insane.
Like cities with the most remote workers in 2023 so far. Washington, D.C., 34%.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Do you know anybody that moved to Washington, D.C.?
No.
I don't either. San Francisco, we already talked about. Austin, we talked about. San Jose, 30%. That makes sense. That's a tech industry. Mm-hmm. Seattle, 29%. Also could be argued more of a tech industry thing. Notables, though, above 20% of their workforce now. Wilmington, Delaware.
Outside of D.C., so that's understandable.
Santa Fe, New Mexico.
That's not.
Where were all the remote workers when we were there? I didn't see them.
I don't know where they're coming from.
I guess they were home. I'm not sure.
I don't know where they're coming from because what big city is there? Albuquerque? I doubt they're coming from Albuquerque.
No, they're coming from
like where?
Like maybe, who knows? Santa Fe, New Mexico. They could be coming from Chicago for all you know. They could be coming from Los Angeles. Some of the Dallas, maybe they don't want to live in Dallas. And Dallas is a big, busy city.
So I have to tell you, I understand the allure of Santa Fe. Like if you go there and you visit and you spend any time there, you would say to yourself, I could live here. Like every single person I've ever met who has visited Santa Fe has said, I could live there. But I don't see a lot of people living there. Like there are not a lot of people on the street and it's not cheap.
It's not.
No.
It's not a steal. No.
Not for real estate. It's not.
No, it's not. But if you're younger and you're progressive minded, I guess, I don't know. It seems like a pretty progressive city.
Just very quiet.
It is. It's chill. It's a very chill city.
You have to be a chill millennial.
Please leave the millennials alone. This is entirely not a podcast about millennials. They don't even own houses. They don't want to own houses. We're not even talking about them.
All right.
Let it go. Karen. Oh my God. Okay. So one of the other notables though that is worth mentioning is Provo, Utah, which historically has been a bastion of Mormon families. Now all of a sudden there are a lot more remote workers that want to live there, presumably, I guess, because they want to leave Salt Lake City or just to your point, have a bigger house for less money.
Well, Provo, Provo is known for years, right?
Swingers?
No, it's Mormon. No, it's known for the boarding schools. Like when the kids were bad, when kids are bad, you send them board. Yeah. Provo has.
Did not know that.
Yeah. Provo has a lot of boarding schools for bad.
Provo has a lot of like big cities would send their bad kids to Provo.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Or if, I mean, yeah.
Rich parents, only rich parents do this stuff.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you're on food stamps, you're not sending your kid to Provo. They're going to juvie.
Point.
Yeah.
Well, now all the bad kids are moving to Provo again. So
all the bad kids who have money are going back to
rich bad kids with money.
Yeah, they left the boarding school and 20 years later they're going back to buy a house.
Okay, so moving on. Leave the millennials alone. They are the true remote workers. Okay, they're renting apartments and they're splitting.
Work. They don't even work.
And they're splitting when they do work. Oh my God! Stop! Please stop. They know more about your phone than you do.
Oh, that is true. Oh my God! If ever I need help with my phone, I'll get a millennial.
They would literally reprogram it for you.
I love millennials. I do.
Okay, thanks for that disclaimer.
Okay.
Speaking of millennial workers, I have this theory as to why the big cities are gaining back their population.
Do tell.
It's because they're back to work and they can actually afford to go back to the place that they never wanted to leave in the first place. But were probably forced to, perhaps because they were laid off.
That makes sense.
And had to, as I think a lot of younger workers or maybe multi-generational, like even people our age, maybe had to sell the house to go move in with mom and dad in Farmington, Ohio or wherever for a short while until they figured things out. Now they are back to work. Now they can go back to the city they truly love. Just a theory. I don't know. Okay.
That makes sense. And if they had friends there who didn't leave, makes total sense.
Totally.
It just kind of negates everything we've been learning along the way on the road about people's claiming their city's been taken over with remote workers. So now I could tell them they're idiots.
Now, you're gonna finally agree with me on this.
No.
Savannah, incidentally, has only increased in population 1% each year, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022.
Oh, we're not
that
doing
is
this.
Not a huge splash of remote workers.
We're not doing this.
And you and Patrick like to talk about St. Petersburg. Less than 0.5% every single year. Google it. It's Googleable.
Oh, here we go again.
Just Google it.
All right.
Population in 2019, St. Pete's.
I'm not doing this.
Population in 2019, 2020, St. Pete's. 21, 22, 23. Do it. You're not going to see this huge population explosion. You're just not. Okay. And so anyway, the facts will continue to support my opinion.
All right.
Anyway, I think we've drilled this into the ground. We've talked long enough about remote working and how it doesn't work for you and how it works for me.
Yep. I think we're all clear on that.
Absolutely. And please continue to give us a review on Apple Podcasts or a rating on Spotify. You do not know how far those things go in terms of our visibility of this show. We appreciate you helping us grow it.
Thank you for sharing us with your friends too. And remember, if you're watching us on YouTube, we'd love it if you subscribe to the channel.
Take them out.
Empty nest, full tank.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.